Developing a cross-validation tool for evaluating economic evidence in rapid literature reviews. This presentation is based on our publication in the Journal of Comparative Effectiveness Research. I thank my co-authors. The outline of this presentation. We will start with background. When deciding whether to adopt a new health technology, it's critical to systematically identify and evaluate the published economic evidence to make informed decisions regarding value. However, it is not always feasible to conduct a full HTA and a resource-intensive systematic review. In recent years, rapid reviews, rapid HTA, mini HTA, and rapid response have been extensively used throughout many HTA agencies. Synthesizing and assessing the quality of economic evidence in a rapid economic literature review may pose several challenges to researchers due to constrained timelines, increased complexity of newly published economic models, and lack of transparency. Alternatively, it can be misleading if a rapid review does not critically evaluate the validity of the findings, which may lack robustness or even be biased. This work aims to outline the theory underlying the development of a screening tool that aids with critical evaluation of economic evidence when conducting rapid literature reviews. Researchers from various settings, including academia, HTA agencies, and industry, who conduct rapid economic reviews may benefit from this cross-validation tool. In addition, this tool can be valuable for stakeholders who need to understand the quality and credibility of findings in rapid reviews for decision-making. Before providing the details, we will give an overview of this tool. This tool allows for an efficient qualitative approach, under a Bayesian framework, using prior health economic evidence, termed the reference, for the purposes of this work, to gauge the credibility of the rapid economic review's findings. The tool works by forming a small database of the reference economic evidence. Within that database, it captures two main components: the clinical benefit, such as improving disease progression, and corresponding Cowley gain. The tool focuses on the logical consistency of model input, clinical benefits, and outputs, Cowley gained for cost-utility analysis of findings within a rapid review, compared to the reference, the prior economic evidence. This tool does not focus on the technical details, such as model structure, assumptions, and parameters of economic modeling. There are main assumptions of this tool. 1. There is general consensus on the intervention's safety profile, clinical effect, and the clinical effect's duration. 2. A larger magnitude of clinical benefits is generally associated with greater Cowley gain. 3. The best quality economic evaluation captures the unknown true health benefits in Cowley. When there is no major violation of the assumptions, appropriate analytic approaches should provide consistent results. Therefore, by identifying the degree to which the new intervention provides clinical benefits, greater, smaller, or similar, compared with the existing interventions, a reasonable interpolated range of Cowley gained from the new intervention can be approximated. Given that healthcare resource use and unit costs are often region and country specific, we do not consider costs in this tool. Now, I will introduce theoretical concepts behind the cross-validation tool and its extensions. Our qualitative approach of evaluating economic evidence was inspired by the Bayesian framework. The key feature of the Bayesian framework is to allow new findings to be set in the proper context. Briefly, Bayesian posterior distributions were derived by updating prior probabilities with new observed data. Since naturally Bayesian methods permit the synthesis of all available evidence, not the analysis of the new data alone, it can improve the precision of treatment effect estimates and potentially reduce the bias associated with such estimates. Following Bayesian thinking, The purported Cowley gained in the Rapid Economic Review study are put into the context of the existing health economic evidence. We selected the best quality economic study as the reference, which was assumed to reflect the true Cowley gained, to act as a benchmark for the results of other analyses. This selection process is further explained later. These reference studies act as a safeguard, reducing potential biases of interpreting data from an individual economic evaluation. When the results of individual studies are inconsistent with the existing evidence, the findings of new study may be seen as lacking credibility. Using 83 published articles, Wright and Weinstein have categorized the gains in life expectancy from various medical interventions as large or small. The interventions included both treatments and preventive interventions, stratified by the target population and disease. This table shows the life year gains from preventive interventions. This table shows the life year gains from treatment interventions. For example, implantable cardioverter defibrillators lead to a life expectancy gain of 36 to 46 months for the survivors of cardiac arrest, while amiodarone therapy leads to a life expectancy gain of 14 to 16 months. We further extended these concepts to the association between the clinical benefit, set A, and the Cowley gained, set B. Researchers developing this tool must review both clinical and economic literature to populate sets A and B. Let set A be the clinical benefits for treatments for a given indication. Each element, AI, represents the magnitude of the difference in clinical effectiveness between two treatments, or between an intervention and placebo. Let us select numerous interventions whose clinical benefits can be ranked by clinical judgment or clinical outcome measures. Let A1 greater than A2 greater than A3, and so on, greater than AN greater than 0. Let's assume that clinical benefits can be directly represented by the differences in Cowley between interventions. Let B be the set of Cowley gained, where B1 greater than B2 greater than B3, and so on, greater than Bn greater than 0. Each element in set A has a corresponding element in set B, and the order of the comparisons in set A and B should be the same or similar. Let us assume that the order of all elements in set A are known, and the values in a subset of set B are known. Based on the known order of elements in set A and the known values in the subset of B, we can deduce a range of median values for unknown elements in set B. For most diseases, there are a small number of treatment options available. Therefore, it is unlikely that there will be many elements for set A and B. We can simplify this by using only two elements, one with the largest clinical benefits, a highly effective treatment that is infrequently used in clinical practice, such as heart transplants, and the other with the smallest clinical benefits, pharmaceutical therapy. Once we have two elements that represent both the largest and smallest clinical benefit, we can theoretically obtain an interval, and we expect that a new intervention's Cowley gained will likely fall within this interval. For a given condition, the primary clinical effects may be similar across various interventions. However, the secondary outcomes, such as the safety profile, may differ. For example, different oral anticoagulants, dabigatran, rivaroxaban, and apixaban, have a similar effect on the risk of ischemic stroke in patients with atrial fibrillation, but based on observational research, apixaban is likely to be associated with a lower risk of major bleeding. In this case, the Cowley gained are driven by the safety profile. The elements of set A can be ranked by safety, and elements in set B are the corresponding Cowley gained in this condition. This tool may be extended to interventions which improve health-related quality of life, but have no effect or marginal effect on survival and clinical events. Now, I will introduce the examples of applying this tool. The key factor in applying this cross-validation tool is to properly select the references and define the true Cowley gain from an intervention. Theoretically, if effectiveness is estimated based on the same body of key clinical evidence, the findings from different economic evaluations for a specific intervention should be relatively consistent. Therefore, although subject to limitations, we can assume that the best quality economic evaluation for an intervention approximates the true but unknown health benefit in Cowley. In a hypothetical example in this figure, according to clinical judgment, for clinical measures, the benefits of the new intervention would be less than the fourth-ranked treatment in the dataset, associated with 0.6 Cowley gain compared to usual care, and greater than the seventh-ranked treatment, associated with 0.3 Cowley gained compared to usual care. Therefore, the Cowley gained associated with the new intervention likely range from 0.3 to 0.6. If the results of a newly published economic evaluation contradict this value, the validity of the new economic evaluation's findings may be seen as questionable. This idea can be further explained using a case example. Both CGM and FLASH measure interstitial glucose and provide data on glucose trends for diabetes insulin therapy. CGM has the added function of alarms that alert the user to hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia. Thus, CGM should have either better or similar effectiveness than FLASH for type 1 diabetes, as CGM has more features. A diabetic modeling study prepared by NICE in UK evaluated the cost-effectiveness of CGM versus self-monitoring of blood glucose, SMBG, in patients with type 1 diabetes. The results showed that compared to self-monitoring, CGM had an increase of 0.1 Cowley over a lifetime horizon. If we assume the NICE study represents the true effectiveness of CGM, we can expect FLASH would have a smaller or equal benefit compared with SMBG. However, a recent cost-utility analysis in patients with type 1 diabetes found that compared to SMBG, FLASH had a large gain of 2.12 Cowley over a lifetime horizon. By comparing the findings with that of the NICE study, we may be curious about the validity of the economic analysis results. When the study was appraised further, we found it likely overestimated the Cowley gained associated with FLASH, as the disutility of non-severe hypoglycemia may have been overestimated by assuming a linear relationship between the frequency of hypoglycemic events and the total reduction in utility. Now, I will present the considerations in developing the cross-validation tool. To create Set A, it is critical to develop a dataset with reference treatments by disease category. Although it is not impossible to compare the clinical benefits of interventions for different diseases or indications, it is straightforward to group the important interventions by disease categories. Interventions should be selected that have well-established clinical evidence to support their effect. We can select some milestone treatments, or important innovations, in the history of medicine as the references. Different types of treatments, such as surgical and pharmaceutical treatments, can be in the same dataset for similar indications. However, drugs used for primary and secondary prevention, cardiovascular disease, may be in different datasets given considerable differences in baseline risk. The reference treatments should cover the wide range of clinical benefits. In general, Set A should not include diagnostic tests. Here are some thoughts for Set B. Although not used in the tool's evaluation, the reference studies should report details such as the model structure, model parameters, calculation process of derived parameters, and assumptions. Ideally, the economic model should be published. The main clinical parameters of reference economic studies should be based on the best available clinical evidence, with justification for their source. For selecting the reference studies for Set B, we may not include economic studies that use local data, such as data from administrative dataset for a particular setting, as the key clinical model inputs, given that the results from these studies may be not generalizable to other settings. When applying this tool for a published economic study included in the rapid review, the researcher may provide either positive or negative comments. For example, when the Cowley gain of the study is not consistent with the existing evidence, the researcher can state that we did not use a structured validation assessment tool to evaluate the quality of this economic study in this rapid review. However, we used a cross-validation tool to evaluate the cost-effectiveness results, and found that the Cowley gain from the intervention in this study was likely beyond the possible range, based on the existing high-quality economic evidence. Therefore, the findings of this study should be interpreted with caution. Conclusion. Our study presents a theoretical screening tool for rapid economic reviews, which assesses the consistency of economic results using a qualitative synthesis of previously published studies. This provides researchers a valuable tool to systematically compare a new intervention's Cowley gained against findings from other economic evaluations, and to allow one to quickly judge whether the results of an economic study appear reasonable in light of the existing evidence.